Hi, my name is Dana Mauro. As you can probably hear in my voice, I am from the United States. But regardless of where you live, if you're dealing with ataxia, you have a common bond and you know what I'm talking about. My husband John has two rare diseases. He has ataxia and mitochondrial disease. And in 2014, I started a podcast called Did You Know Ataxia Facts? My whole goal in this was to create some awareness about ataxia because no one in our family or our circle of friends knew what it was. And so my main goal was to get the word out about ataxia, to share reputable information in short little digestible servings so that someone could understand and then be able to share that with their family and friends. So I continue doing that podcast today, and I think it's really important that no matter where you live, you open up the lines of communication and talk about ataxia, because the more we talk about it, the more people are going to learn about it. So I want to talk to you about that in a little bit, but first, I've been asked to share with you how to maximize your doctor visit. So you can probably relate to me on this one. When the diagnosis is first handed down, you're in shock. I know that when they told us John had ataxia, we, first of all, didn't know what ataxia was. Secondly, it's not hereditary in John's family. It was sporadic, and he was diagnosed in middle age. And we just felt helpless. We just were on a quest to find information. So that first doctor visit, we totally didn't retain anything from that first visit. We went in glazed over, and when the doctor started talking in all the medical jargon, we even got more glazed over, and we really left there not even knowing what was discussed at that appointment. So from that day forward, I decided that I need to really be prepared, and I am going to do things differently so that when I go to the next appointment, I can get more out of it. And that was really what happened with this. So here's a couple of things that I do. I'm hoping that you find them helpful and maybe start trying some of them yourself. And there may be some that you already do, and that's fabulous. So the first thing is keeping a medical journal. What the journal is, it's like a diary. So I have a book, and I date the top of every page. And at the end of every day, I make a bulleted list that encapsulates how John's day was. It includes things like symptoms. It includes things like weather, his mood, different struggles that he might have had that day. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody but me. And I just want to make sure that when I look back on that page, that I can read those things and I know the type of day that John had or what he was dealing with that day. Let's face it, there are long stretches of time in between these doctor appointments, and you can't possibly sit there and remember back everything that happened over a set period of time, sometimes 6 months. This journal is really valuable because it allows you to go back and review what has happened over a set period of time, and allows you to see trends, and it also allows you to see progression of the disease. And it can also show you where things have improved. So the journal. Next up, keeping a medical binder. Medical binder is important because it is a central repository for all of your medical information. Things like blood work, test results, any imaging, or genetic testing. It's just centralized and it's transportable. So it allows you to bring it with you to a doctor visit. Let's face it, we would all love to think that, doctors and hospitals are interconnected through the internet, but they're just not. And so this gives you the ability to take these things with you to the doctor appointment so that you have them at your fingertips. The next thing is being prepared for that doctor visit. I usually start a couple of weeks out, and I go back through the journal, and I just look for, what has happened since the last time we were at the doctor's. And I just write a summary of those things. The next thing that I do is I pull out of the binder any medical information that I might need to bring with me to that visit. And then I sit down and I make my questions list. What are the questions that I want to ask? And I prioritize them because the appointment is usually not that long. And so I want to make sure that I get the most important questions asked and answered first. So I will prioritize. And then I will start a bag. I will put everything that I need in that bag for that appointment so that the day of the appointment, I just can grab it and go out the door. I don't need to be, scrambling at the last minute trying to find stuff. And then the day of the appointment, I always go in with John. Two sets of ears, are better than one. Something else that we started doing was asking the doctor if we could tape record the visit. Our doctor had no problem with that, and it was fabulous because now I have an audio recording of that visit. I can share it with family members. I can listen to it 1,000 times if I need to. I can fast forward it and rewind it. So it is really, really helpful. So, I hope that some of these tips help you. The journal is great. The binder is essential. You should have and be in possession of all of your medical information. So if you haven't started this practice, I highly recommend that. And preparing is another invaluable thing because it allows you to really be present at the meeting and hear what's being said instead of, being distracted by all the thoughts in your head. And then, asking to record the visit. So I hope you found those tips helpful. If you aren't doing any of those things, I hope that you consider starting some of them. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about opening up the lines of communication and discussing ataxia with your in your circles, your family members, discussing, what it is and how it impacts your loved one's life. Or if it's you that's got ataxia, telling people, what are some of your limitations? There's no shame in that. Opening up the lines of communication is helpful because you can discuss these things and come up with a plan. The other thing that's helpful is if you do belong to a support group, and if you don't, I highly recommend that you do, discussing these things within your support group, because what you'll find is that there are other people going through some of the same challenges that you are, and they have tried and true, tips for you to try. There is no better resource for you than somebody that's dealing with the same issues that you are. You can share information, you can share tips, and you also may just find out that not everything that you're experiencing is related to ataxia. You could have another condition or an underlying issue that has nothing to do with the ataxia. I know that John and I so often would chalk everything up to ataxia. He wasn't sleeping, so it was because of the ataxia. He was, having real mobility issues, and that was because of the ataxia. And so when we started to talk to others about those things, we would find out that they had those same, concerns, brought them up to their doctor, and come to find out it was due to something completely other than ataxia. So it's really important to open up those channels of communication and talk to as many people as you can about ataxia, your symptoms, and how it impacts you. it is going to give you such a sense of, relief when you find out that some of these things can be managed and are maybe not due to ataxia at all. Thanks so much for having me. This was really a great opportunity, and I hope that I was helpful, and I would hope that I was able to share some information with you and give you some things to think about. Thanks so much for having me.